I want to get to you guys' questions quickly as I can, but I just wanted to make a couple of comments about the film and get you talking about it a little bit. Apparently, when you were 6 years old, you started working on this film in 1975?
Oh, you're so sweet. I told him that I started making the movie in 1975, and I was about the same age as some of the young girls here, and I always wanted to make a movie that introduced show jumping and horses to the general public. And so as I went on and rode horses all my life, I took my little valise with me and I collected stories. And Harry and Snowman was one of the stories that I chose to tell. And so it wasn't until more recently that I got the chance to finish it properly.
And as I say, technically the film was beautifully made with the current footage. Is your father still alive?
Yes, he is.
Okay, great. And there's all the footage from now, but taking advantage of all that stock footage. And because of his celebrity and how much he achieved, there's a lot of that to go through.
And it's true, and that's why I think we were able to cull a lot of film from the family. And then we put a call out to everyone and said, if you have anything in your attic, if your grandfather and grandmother collected movies, could you please send it to us? And so we got a great amount of support from that, and we had an archivist, Nancy Talcott, that was just amazing. Yeah.
And some of the television footage, was that all existing from the Dick Cavett show, and then earlier from the Johnny Carson show?
Yeah.
Tell a little bit.
They had it in the archives, and they were able to, I guess, research it, and they found it laying, I guess, just sitting on the back shelves.
And it's terribly expensive, that archival footage. I mean, it was one of the biggest parts of our budget to collect that kind of footage. They know they have gold.
Right. But it's also that there's a lot of money needed for both in television as well as in film to restore these things, because they'll be gone at some point because they're just going to fall apart. But getting to the family, which brother was it that left at 17? And
His name was Joseph. He was the oldest at the time. He's still alive, and he is involved with horses down in Florida. He actually is involved with race horses, not show horses, but he's still dabbles with the horses a little bit. So,
when he left, did he stay with horses, or did he come back to horses later on?
Yeah, no, he left and took his girlfriend at the time with him, and they started a riding school up in Jersey, and then he got involved with the race horses later in life.
Okay, so I guess your sister said that all the kids got careers with horses at some point, or had the opportunity to have occupations with horses?
Every child got the chance to show. There's 8 children. 2 of them aren't involved in horses anymore so much, but the rest of them, they have the love for them, but they just don't make a living at it.
Right, and you have a farm in East Hampton.
I have a farm in East Hampton.
And that was your father's?
That was my father's back in the 80s.
What time did he had it in the 80s?
He had it in the 80s,
and then he
yeah.
moved on to where?
Well, he says retired when he left, but that didn't really happen.
I get that. And so you have fairly fond memories of Snowman?
I was at the younger end of that era, but we were there for the retirement and his afterlife pretty much, and then with the other horses, I was much more involved.
Right. Did you use Snowman as a diving board? Were you
No,
at
that was
level?
my older brother.
That was your older brother?
I was the little one up front.
Okay, well, amazing that you got the opportunity to at least be with Snowman at all, because just an incredible story and so beautifully told. So I'm sure there's a lot of questions from the audience, and by all means, speak up. Oh, right there in the middle.
How did he get that tire back? I can't imagine that.
I think that it just was attached to the rope, and it probably broke the fence as he jumped over, but...
I thought I heard the Harry say that not only did he have the tire, but he had a piece of the fence. So I think it caught some of the fence, and he dragged the tire and the fence down the road 6 miles, which is pretty incredible. Yeah. So do you still ride? Are you still riding?
Yeah, I still ride and compete every year still, and I have students that compete at horse show level and stuff like that.
In the Classic and
yeah, the
local day, and
Classic
also
and
in other places?
Other places, yes, Saugerties, Florida we go to. So there's plenty of venues still left that we can go horse show at.
Well, that's great. And you're still writing, Karen?
I'm a writer and a barn owner and a teacher. So my life, because I knew what this lifestyle was, and that's why I wanted to make this amazing movie about it. It was going to be a documentary as well. So there's one little point I want to make about Ron Davis, our director. Ron came from the publishing business. And he had been in the business for about 25 years. And I think when you write a book and you look at books and you read books, it's this amazing talent that you could get. And I think that was one of the things that came out about this story, is that he was able to take each part of Snowman and Harry's life and fold from one thing to the other thing to the other thing. And it was very difficult because Harry and Snowman were only together for several years. Maybe you could make a mention of that.
You know, they were together for a short time. As far as competing, he, again, stayed on with our family for another 8 years or so after he was retired. And I think it was not easier for Ron, but he was able to do it because he had ridden as a child too. So he was putting pieces together that he was a little familiar with.
Right. Well, and that's the filmmaking talent and all these documentaries that we've seen, and they're all top-level documentaries. It's about the subject. You have to have a really good subject, a compelling subject. But then it's how do you tell the story with the footage that you have, stock footage and the new footage that you shoot. How do you tell the story in a coherent way that has an arc, a storytelling arc? And publishing certainly would give you that leg up on that. So your involvement from the beginning was to make this film about Snowman. And then you hired Ron.
Well, how it sort of occurred is that when I went to make a documentary, it was going to be about the 3 top riders in the sport at the time. This was back in the mid-'70s. And as you know, if you want to do something really well, the very best of what you do always floats to the top. And so even though my movie was going to be about 3 people, the story of Harry and Snowman definitely floated to the top. And so Ron came to me about 3-4 years ago and said he wanted to concentrate on that story and make a movie about Snowman. And I thought to myself, because my film had been sitting on the shelf for many years. I had lost my footage. It had been removed from buildings in New York. And I had found my footage, and so there was sort of this long, circuitous route. And so when I met Ron, I thought to myself, because the deal is when you have to finish a movie, you can go ahead and make it, but when you have to finish it, it means you almost have to start all over again. It's like getting someone else's used horse, you start all over again, and you retrain and you remake. And so Ron was a perfect person to handle the story, I felt. So we felt very, very fortunate.
Well, that's exactly the problem with writing, too. It's great to write the first draft, but then you've got to start over again from the beginning to make the revisions and make it happen. Do we have another question before we go? Okay, right there.
I was just going to say really quickly, my sister was kind of like here. She bought a horse at an auction and rode it from Syracuse, New York to Sacramento, California, and trained it herself. So this film was great for me. But I was just curious because when the children were talking, there seemed to be no joy about the horses. Like, it didn't feel like they loved horses to me. It was like, well, we had these horses and we had to work really hard. But I never heard anybody say, like, oh my God, it was so much fun and we went swimming on this horse. I mean, Harry said, they dived off the horse, but there didn't seem, did your brothers and sisters love horses? Did you love horses?
It's a, I don't want to say a love-hate relationship. I mean, you work 7 days a week, 365 days a year. If a horse is sick at 12 o'clock at night, guess what? You're up doing it. If he's sick for 5 days straight, you're doing it. But when you win the class at the horse show, you have all the thrill in the world. When your students do well, it's a great thrill.
But did you love the horses, whether the work?
Absolutely. If we didn't love the horses, there's a million other things we could do in life. That's the only thing that drives us. I mean, it's a labor of love. It's not always about making money or anything, or even the greatest reward. I have 2 young boys, and they'll say to me, "Dad, that was a nice round." I say that's all it was, boys. It was a good round, and we have to be happy with that because the judge didn't use you or something like that. Doesn't mean it was, not respectful. So it's a lesson for everybody, I think. There's great thrills in it and enjoyment, but there's also lots of hard work that goes along with it.
Well, I just mean, but the horse themselves, like, they're such noble creatures, and aside from the work in the horse shows, there's just people who love horses, and I just didn't, other than Harry, it didn't seem like that was going on with the family.
I get your point, but the way that I saw that was that it was there's a lot more human because of that, because of the fact that it is a day in, day out, and because there were some complicated feelings with the children, with the way that Harry was with them, and I think that you'll concede that that's the point.
Yeah.
It makes it a little bit more difficult in his shadow and so forth, and because of that, the kind of level of commitment was even all the more telling because of the different kinds of human struggle that's involved in that and the day-to-day thing. So, I mean, as in most documentaries that are great, you capture not just the one side, the sort of simple, this is the amazing thing. This is like, it's complicated. Life is complicated. And so that was captured beautifully, but without any loss of so much feeling on the part of Harry and on the part of the children for appreciating what happened with Harry and with Snowman and everything else. So just beautifully done. I think we got to go. One more question right here.
And then I have something to say,
Oh, you
too,
have something to say.
after
So,
your question.
Who was injured go back to riding?
She did. Yes, she did. She competed for a few years after it, and then she pleasure rode for a number of years.
Can I ask a question, please? Of all of the footage that you got, was there any clip that was found that was that wonderful, like, oh my God, look what we have?
Every single piece that we found we used, and every single piece we thought that. It was like, wow, this is going to paint another side of the picture, or frame it a little differently. Yeah, we were really lucky.
You wanted to say one thing, and then you got to go catch a plane. So one thing.
So our film premiered in April of this year in Raleigh-Durham, which was really cool because it was in North Carolina where Harry had started and the film debuted. And so after the premiere, Ron took our camera audience and we went to the slaughterhouse up in Pennsylvania where Snowman had been saved.
Right.
And we now have something called the Snowman Rescue Fund. And we saved 3 horses. We have now rehomed 2 of them. And then the 3rd horse that we saved, and this is something to think about, like you can save a horse from a place like this and put him in your backyard, or you can save a horse and they will rehab him and give him to a wonderful family. Or you can also buy a horse and let him have a peaceful and tranquil ending. And that's what we did with the 3rd horse. And it's a little bit different way of looking at rescuing horses. But it was something that I think is close to my heart because in response to your question, we love horses. Absolutely from the bottom of our hearts, it is all about the horses. Everything that we do is about them and how we care for them.
Yeah. It is a day in and day out process, but if there was no love for them or joy from them, why do it?
We wouldn't do it.
I mean, like I said, it's not a 60-hour-a-week job. It's
full time.
So we have a website, www.harryandsnowman.com. We're looking for distribution now, too.
Hi, Andre.
Hi.
We each had one specific horse that we loved. I mean, we rode so many horses, but there was always one particular horse that each of us really loved. So there was a tremendous amount of love in the horseback riders in our family, right?
Absolutely.
Yes, Jamie Boy.
That's great. Thanks so much. I know you got to go. So thank you very much to Karen and to Andre, Harry and the Snowman.
Thank you to the film festival.